In this episode, we talk about Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's resignation. We also talk about a stampede in Tirupati that led to 6 deaths. But first, we talk about the Maha Kumbh Mela. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to 3 Things, the Indian Express news show. The Mahakumbh, held every 12 years, is all set to begin on 13th January in Prayagraj, Uttar Pradesh. The Mela will go on for 45 days and end on 26th February. Mahakumbh is one of the biggest such religious congregations in the country, and nearly 40 crore visitors are expected to visit the Mela this year. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the scale on which the Mahakumbh is organized is historical.
लगातार 45 दिनों तक चलने वाला महायज्ञ एक नया नगर बसाने का महाअभियान प्रयागराज की इस धरती पर एक नया इतिहास रचा जा रहा है। अगले साल महाकुंभ का आयोजन देश की सांस्कृतिक आध्यात्मिक पहचान को नए शिखर पर स्थापित करेगा। A
gathering of this size requires a massive amount of arrangement, from looking after the devotees to managing the waste generated by them. To learn about the arrangements that have been made for the Mahakumbh this year, we have the Indian Express's Maulshree Seth joining us. Maulshree, for our listeners, can you begin by telling us about the Mahakumbh?
This is Mahakumbh, which is like a kumbh which takes place after 12 years of time. So last kumbh had taken place in 2013 when Akhilesh Yadav-led SP government was there in the state. And if we talk about Yogi government, this is the first Mahakumbh that would take place under this regime. Since in each kumbh, the gathering of people expected to take bath because there are various sacred days for taking the bath. So it increases every year. And this time, as per the government estimates, it's likely to go up till 45 crore of people in a month-long time period where different stans would take place. And one more thing, that even though the Mahakumbh takes place once in 12 years, this one, it's like if you say 12 into 12 kumbhs completing 12 cycles. So this is also 144th kumbh. So that again makes it significant for the people who want to take a bath or there. So 144th year also this kumbh is taking place. So there are various significance involved. Plus the government is also trying to highlight it as a showcase of a Sanatan Dharma and Sanatan culture, not just across state or across India, but across the world.
And Maulshree, if we talk about 2013, the last time that the Mahakumbh was held, what kind of estimates were made for the number of people who will be visiting the Mela, and what kind of an increase are we looking at this year?
2013, the estimate that the government had at that point of time was roughly about 12 crore people. So it is kind of almost doubled as compared to that in this particular year.
Right. And what kind of arrangements have been done in order to accommodate a crowd of this size?
See, since there's a huge gathering which is coming in, and it's not just the daily visitors, the sadhus, saints, the government expects that they're going to be about 50 lakh people who will be permanently staying at the kumbh. So these would be not just the sadhu sons, but they might also be many visitors who will make a stay for the longer duration of time. So for that, government, it's about 4,000 hectares of land or 10,000 acres of area on which a temporary city has been developed. So this particular city has various tents, accommodations prepared with all the amenities by different departments, organizations, as well as the government. So that entire city has come up along the river Ganga in Prayagraj in about 4,000 hectares of land.
25 सेक्टर में 10,000 एकड़ विस्तृत क्षेत्रफल में प्रयागराज का ये महाकुंभ का आयोजन होने जा रहा है, जिसमें पूरा देश और पूरी दुनिया का हर वह व्यक्ति जो सनातन धर्म के प्रति, भारत और भारतीयता के प्रति सम्मान और गौरव की अनुभूति करता है, वह इस आयोजन का साक्षी बनने जा रहा है।
We just heard Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath talking about the 25 sectors that the Mela area has been divided into. So, Maulshree, you write that how each of these sectors will function as a city ward. So, can you tell us what does that mean?
See, what happened last month, the government declared this particular area, which is like 10,000 acres of area or 4,000 hectares of land, as a district in itself for 3 months' time. So this is going to be a temporary district for 3 months, and sectors have been prepared. So there are 25 sectors in which this entire area has been divided, and each sector, since this entire area has been declared as a temporary district for 3 months, so each of these sectors would act as a ward. Each of these 25 sectors would not only have its own drainage system, toilet system, but it would also have like every facility that a ward in a city area has, these sectors would have it. See, the Kumbh Mela Adhikari has become the district magistrate, and the entire Mela area has its own SSP, the police head as well as the ward heads, the subdivisional magistrate. Just like the system of a district or a city works, this entire Kumbh Mela area has been divided into the sectors which would act as wards and corresponding to any city of the state. And the administration and the policing would be divided accordingly.
Right, and we understand that one of the biggest goals for the Mahakumbh this year is to make it open defecation free.
Yes. See, when we look at the numbers, these numbers are unprecedented because even the government claims that it is one of the largest religious gatherings that anywhere across the world it is seen. It's not just about the footfall. It's not like people coming and just leaving. They camp, they bath. So the problem is also of the human waste, like the human fecal waste as well as the grey water. And by grey water, what they mean is that because people would be cooking there, people would be taking bath. Apart from the bath into the river, they'll also be taking bath otherwise also in the accommodations that are there. This is basically the wastewater which would go into the drains. So separate drains are being created to collect this water apart from the sewage waste that is going to be there. Especially when the government is aiming at clean Ganga. So it becomes important for the government or the significant to achieve that goal as well. But to do that, since it's a temporary city, there are no permanent sewage lines or the drainage lines. And since the government also declared that it's going to be open defecation free, so the motive was to have like a proper drainage and the sewage system. Since they are expecting a huge gathering, so the waste is also going to be in large number. So different mechanisms have been adopted, some new experiments have been made, and different technologies have been adopted to ensure that waste is managed and it's properly treated before the water is released into the river Ganga. Basically, all those who are coming to take bath, they also get a cleaner water to bathe in.
1.5 लाख शौचालय और 1.5 लाख से अधिक टेंटेज की व्यवस्था यहां पर की गई। 25 सेक्टर बनाए गए हैं। इस पूरे क्षेत्र को जो 2019 में 19 के पहले जिन लोगों को भारत की आस्था के सम्मान के बारे में जो लोग उसकी कोई कीमत नहीं समझते थे, उन लोगों ने कुंभ को गंदगी का, अव्यवस्था का, भगदड़ का पर्याय बनाया था। लेकिन प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी की स्वच्छ भारत मिशन के साथ से प्रेरणा लेते हुए उनके मार्गदर्शन में 2019 का कुंभ स्वच्छता के मानक पर एक नए प्रतिमान का प्रतीक बना था। न केवल कुंभ क्षेत्र बल्कि मां गंगा और यमुना और सरस्वती की त्रिवेणी के संगम को भी इस बहुत शुद्ध जल उपलब्ध हो रहा था। और 2019 से भी बेहतर व्यवस्था 2024-2025 के इस महाकुंभ के आयोजन के साथ यहां पर देखने को मिल रही है।
Maulshree, with that bigger crowd, massive waste is also going to be generated. So can you tell us about the measures that are being taken towards waste management at the Mahakumbh 2025?
Yeah, see, several initiatives have been taken. First of all, for the grey water, the ponds have been developed in each sector. So, roughly about 2 to 3 ponds have been developed. So, this grey water would go into these ponds and it would be chemically treated there. Then, these water, they are about 200 kilometer of a drainage system has been created, which is a temporary drainage system. And it would take this grey water towards the final treatment facility before it is released into the river. Then comes the solid waste. So the sewage which would be coming from the tents and the other accommodations which have been temporarily created there. So for that, what has government done? There will be proper vehicles and the soak pits have been prepared in each sector, since government is coming up with about 1.45 to almost 2 lakh of toilet system there in different sectors across the Kumbh area. And there'll be separate soak pits. So the waste would be collected through the vehicles and it would be transferred to the FSTPs. There are some FSTPs which are already working and the new FSTPs have also come in for the treatments of this sewage waste. So there are different such kind of techniques which are being used to ensure that first of all, the open defecation, it's open defecation free with the use of toilets and all. And then secondly, whatever the waste is there, it's also not just left into the river just like this, and it is treated using different technologies. So these are some of the methods which are into the process of being installed there.
साथियों, कुंभ जैसे भव्य और दिव्य आयोजन को सफल बनाने में स्वच्छता की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका है। महाकुंभ की तैयारियों के लिए नमामि गंगे कार्यक्रम को तेजी से आगे बढ़ाया गया है। प्रयागराज शहर के सैनिटेशन और वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट पर फोकस किया गया है। लोगों को जागरूक करने के लिए गंगा दूत, गंगा प्रहरी और गंगा मित्रों की नियुक्ति की गई है। इस बार कुंभ में 15,000 से ज्यादा मेरे सफाई कर्मी भाई बहन कुंभ की स्वच्छता को संभालने वाले हैं। मैं आज कुंभ की तैयारी में जुटे अपने सफाई कर्मी भाई बहनों का अग्रिम आभार भी व्यक्त करूंगा। करोड़ों लोग यहां पर
We just heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi thanking the sanitation workers who will be taking care of the waste management that will happen at the Mahakumbh 2025. And Maulshree, you also wrote that technology developed by the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, that is BARC, and ISRO, that is the Indian Space Research Organization, have also been put to use in order to manage the waste at the Mahakumbh. So can you tell us about that?
The government has also tied up for the technology with BARC and ISRO, which is a granular SBR treatment. It's basically a compact biomedical treatment for removal of contaminants for the wastewater. So when this contaminants are removed using this biochemical treatment, the water becomes eligible enough to be thrown back into the river. So this is one technology, and then another technology which is being used is a geotube technology. So what happens that it's kind of dewatering of the waste, so it becomes easier to clean it further. So under this geotechnology tube, whatever the waste is coming, the dewatering is done using geotextiles. So the liquids are separated from the solid, and it kind of, the sludge which is there, it becomes a bit easier to manage it.
Right. And Maulshree, if we talk about the financial side of things, what kind of funds have been put to use for this purpose?
See, the funds are being given both from the government as well as the center government side. If we talk about just the state government, about 7,000 crore of funds are being allocated, have been used, rather a significant amount of it has been used, and roughly about 7,000 crore funds are being used for the Kumbh this year. Out of this, the estimated amount just for the management of the water and the waste material is roughly about 1,600 crore in itself, because it's one of the major challenges that the government would face once the pilgrims start arriving in Kumbh from 13th January onwards.
And what do the government officials have to say regarding this?
See, what the government officials are saying is that because managing this entire gathering and making arrangements, so what they claim is that this is going to be an example for such large religious gatherings, not just across India, but all across the world. And the experiments and all those things which are being tried here, they are going to kind of be set as an example for others to follow, because they would become a role or the ideal mechanism for the future religious gatherings of such sort.
And next we talk about Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. On 6th January, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced his resignation from the post of the party leader and the Prime Minister. He said that he will continue on the post of the Prime Minister until the Liberal Party chooses a new leader.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
He was facing a loss of support within his party, and his popularity had been suffering a blow. To understand the reasons behind this decision and what lies ahead for Canada as well as for India, we have the Indian Express's Diplomatic Affairs editor Shubhajit Roy joining us. Shubhajit, what could have been the reasons behind this step that has been taken by the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Niharika, Justin Trudeau has been Prime Minister for almost 10 years in Canada. And this particular last few years, he's faced challenges in terms of, post-pandemic economic recovery. The inflation is high. There's been a sort of slowdown in growth, as well as there's been housing crisis that has played out in Canada. So overall, he's been facing anti-incumbency in the last few years. And in the recent week, what happened was the Deputy Prime Minister, who's also the Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, she stepped down, and there's been an internal fighting between Trudeau and his critics in the party. And the elections are round the corner in Canada. It should happen by June this year. So before this particular elections, it's sort of a situation where he is facing anti-incumbency challenges, and therefore his popularity ratings had really sort of dipped. So putting all these circumstances together, looking at the entire situation, Trudeau must have analyzed that it is best to resign right now and as the leader of the party. And therefore, he has to resign as the Prime Minister also, but primarily as the leader of the party, to sort of save and salvage the situation for the Liberals, the party that he leads, so that they have a new face and a better chance at the elections when they go for the elections and face off against the Conservatives in the elections, which is expected to be held in June this year.
Right, and talking about that, what kind of a situation exists between the Liberals and the Conservatives in the Canadian Parliament?
Well, the Conservatives have put forward, their leader, Pierre Poilievre. His popularity ratings are quite high, and he's leading the party and sort of framing the opposition, and has sort of framed Trudeau as a weak leader, an indecisive leader, and who has been blamed for all the ills and challenges faced by the Canadians in the last few years. So Conservatives have an upper hand as of now in the upcoming elections. But we'll have to see. It's, the elections, once they happen, if the Liberals are able to maintain their stronghold, or they're routed by the Conservatives in the upcoming elections.
So, Shubhajit, what happens next as far as Canada's leadership is concerned?
As you know, that he has sort of resigned as the party leader. So Justin Trudeau he's sort of stayed on as the Prime Minister till a new party leader, party chief, is elected. There are a few candidates. Chrystia Freeland, who had resigned, who was the Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, is in the race. There's a guy called Mark Carney, who was the former governor of the Canada Bank. He's also on the candidates. And there are a few more ministers and senior leaders from the party, from the Liberals party, who are also possible contenders. We'll have to see how this leadership battle plays out. And they have a short window of next 2 to 3 months. By March, they need to have a leader in place. And thereafter, they can head to the elections. And in the elections, they will most likely go as the new leader, as the face of the party who would have the baggage of 10 years of Trudeau government's sort of policies and have to defend them, or have to own up to them, and yet have to frame a new idea, a new campaign. The Conservatives, that's why they are in a better position, because they have been out of power for last 10 years. So they have something new and something that has not been tested in the last 10 years that they can offer. So that's how we'll have to see. It will be Pierre Poilievre from the Conservatives versus we have to see who will be the Liberal candidate, Liberal leader who takes on Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives.
Right. And now coming to India, what kind of a relationship was maintained between India and Canada during Trudeau's tenure?
Well, obviously, it has really suffered because if you remember, when he came here a few years back, I think it was 2017, when he came here, when this pro-Khalistan elements managed to get invited in his entourage in one of the receptions, that was a big sort of scandal in India. He's been seen as soft towards these pro-Khalistan elements, primarily because of his own political ideas of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, where he's seen by India as condoning the separatist elements who are expressing their desire for Khalistan in India, for separatism in India. So that has impacted the politics and the diplomatic relations between India and Canada. Apart from that, NDP, this party by Jagmeet Singh, is also seen to be a more pro-Khalistan leader. And so overall, these two parties have been seen as soft towards pro-Khalistan elements.
And the allegations that were made by Justin Trudeau in 2023 made things worse.
After September 2023, the allegations were made by Justin Trudeau in the Canadian Parliament, where he accused the Indian government of being involved in an assassination plot to kill pro-Khalistan separatist figure Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The relationship really suffered a huge setback. And after that, we have seen diplomatic sort of ties really suffer with expulsion of diplomats, including high commissioners. We have seen shutting down almost, of the Canadian consulates in India. We've also seen visa processes suffering because of lack of manpower, lack of visa officers in both the countries. The trade has sort of really crippled. It was anyways not very high, but still whatever it was, that has also suffered. So overall, the relationship has really taken a huge hit in the last year and a half. And so I think for the Indian establishment, it has been biding its time that with Trudeau's exit, with Trudeau's departure, they would hope that there would be a reset window, at least a repair window, if not a reset. And they would be looking at stabilizing the relationship after his departure.
There are credible reasons to believe that agents of the government of India were involved in the killing of a Canadian on Canadian soil. That is something of the utmost and foundational importance in a country of rule of law, in a world where international rules-based order matters. We have a rigorous and independent justice system and robust processes that will follow their course. And we call upon the government of India to engage with us to move forward on getting to the truth of this matter.
Shubhajit, how do we see a change in leadership in Canada impacting the relationship between India and Canada?
So, India-Canada relationship obviously has suffered, as I said, explained earlier. But what has happened is because Justin Trudeau, he made the statement in Parliament where he made the allegation, that sort of, locks future prime ministers in Canada from walking back from that particular allegation. Also, the judicial process is on. The law enforcement agencies are taking forward the investigations. So we'll have to see how those outcomes, how the findings of those investigations play out. But for even if the Liberals lose and the Conservatives win, a future Prime Minister by the Conservatives would also find it difficult to walk back. But what might happen is that there would be a greater restraint and maturity in the relationship, and there'll be an effort to stabilize the relationship so that at least the people-to-people contacts that have been happening because of the huge Indian diaspora in Canada, be it students or professionals or, just people visiting their families who live in Canada, that can again come back on track. So I think that is the main idea if and when a new leadership emerges in Canada post-elections. And so we'll have to see. Even a new Liberal leader may be a bit more restrained and bit more less hostile to the relationship. And that is something, is a thing to watch, is a space to watch in terms of India-Canada relationship.
And in the end, we talk about the stampede that happened at Tirupati. On 8th January, 6 people were killed and dozens were injured in a stampede in Tirupati when tokens for the darshan of Lord Venkateshwara were being distributed at the MGM High School at Bairagi Patteda in Tirupati, located close to the Vishnu Nivasam temple. Thousands had gathered to collect their tokens due to the Vaikunta Ekadasi festival. Vaikunta Ekadasi falls in the second week of January. Taking the blessings of Lord Vishnu, who is in the form of Lord Venkateshwara at the Tirumala temple, on this day is considered specially auspicious. The Indian Express's Srinivas Chanyala reported that due to a medical emergency at the Padmavati Park Centre, the gate of the centre was slightly opened, which led the queued people to think that the ticket counters were open, and they rushed forward, pushing and causing people standing in the front to fall down, causing a stampede. Andhra Pradesh's Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu visited the site of the stampede. He announced the suspension of Tirupati's Deputy Superintendent of Police Ramana Kumar and Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam's SV Dairy Farm Director Harinatha Reddy. Tirupati's SP L. Subarayudu, Joint Executive Officer M. Gautami and TTD's Chief Vigilance and Security Officer S. Sridhar have also been transferred. Chanyala reported that the Chief Minister also ordered a judicial probe into the incident. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.